They used to literally just come in and they'd just be like...
Right, Liam, I'm going to hit 2 balls. Yep. I just want you to let me know which swing that you prefer. So we'll start with upright.
That looks like when I met you.
Do you prefer that or the flat swing?
Personally...
Mate, that was actually a way better stroke.
Yeah, I prefer the second one.
Upright versus flat. Just wanted to know what your thoughts are. If there's a better method, generally, from what you've seen, what's worked for you. I know everyone's different, but just keen to chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well, I think first thing, probably between the older school swings and the newer school swings, I think I would personally always kind of edge towards the older school stuff, because if they could flush it back then with Balata balls and the equipment that obviously they had back then, I think the efficiency of golf swings back then had to be a lot better.
That's a big part of it,
than what they do now. Yeah. And I think you've only got to look at guys like yourself, mate. Like, you think about your equipment when you came in, everything is reduce spin, like, because you were so steeping across it and all those kind of things. And if you look at most guys nowadays, how many people I see during lessons that like can't hit my driver, and they're hitting a driver and they've got a 7.5 degree low launch, low spin, like to try, because they're trying to bring spin down all the time.
Yeah.
I think modern day equipment has allowed that to happen because you can be less efficient and get away with it. Yeah. Whereas I know from like when I changed my golf swing, well, even when you've changed it in the past, like how many times have you had to think, might need a bit more loft on this driver, might need a bit more spin.
For instance, what's the loft on your driver?
On mine?
Yeah.
10.75.
10.75. And you swing at 125 miles an hour?
I do.
Yeah. And what did you hit up on it? You like a couple up?
I hit...
Or you down, generally?
I'm like very
about
neutral,
0.
Yeah.
It's a nice spot to be.
Yeah, so I'm kind of almost hitting down on it and not really spinning it too much. And it's just because of the way that I'm moving.
Yeah.
I think because of that, like ideally, and I think that says something, you imagine if you're spinning it at 3.3 with a 7.5 degree driver that's got the stiffest shaft in the world, you imagine if all of a sudden I gave you a Balata golf ball, what that spin rate's going to be. So that's probably a big part of why they've had to hit it a lot different back in the day than what they do now.
Yeah.
Personally, prefer the older school.
I think, if we're talking like aesthetics, I think the old school swings are just...
I just don't know how you can't get romantic about like Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, and even down to like Nicklaus.
Who's that guy? I can't remember his name. No, Knudsen. Do you see that guy?
Yeah.
Like, that guy's takeaway was like in here, but it looks so good and so connected. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I'll say, as the swing gets more this way, I feel like it's easier to stay connected to the body. And as soon as the club goes this way, you disassociate the arms from the club. Can you hit some at the same time?
Yeah, and I think one of the big things as well is people don't realise what trying to get a higher lead arm and trying to get it more in front of them in the backswing is actually doing. Like, I think it massively limits your ability to move the body properly, and also it creates so many spine angle problems. Like, if you imagine when I start doing all of this, I'm just going to be like tilting on. It's very difficult to get it out and in front of you and not lose your spine into some negative spine angle. And then all of a sudden the whole sequence is messed up. Arms are too in front, spine's on top. So then the only way they can get out of it then is to like spin and pull. Yeah, but you were your typical modern theory, like coming in, weren't you? It's like high hands, like trying to hit fades.
Yeah, that's literally the theory. It's like, I don't want to hit quick lefts, so I'm going to get the club as far out and in front of me as I can.
Yeah.
But inevitably, like you said, it just gets your tilts working in the wrong way.
Yeah.
You end up spinning, and then the club gets behind you, and then you end up just sniping low lefts.
Exactly, mate. And I found that most people that come in that struggle with their lefts, like the thing that has the biggest impact that I've seen on path getting like too far out to the right, those snipey shots, is when people lose spine tilt on the way down. So it's why people struggle so much when they've got steep swings and coaches try and get them to kind of lay the club this way. It's why it doesn't get any better. It's because they lose low point, path shifts out to the right, and then they end up with quite a few issues.
And then they have a two-way miss.
Two-way miss, yeah, exactly. Which you see very common, and also like fat wedge shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You see a lot of it. And again, it's just because something's put emphasis on something external.
Yeah.
So, I've always loved like the older school swings.
Let's just see
I
this
just
then.
think they're aesthetically quite pretty, aren't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also, mate, like, if I'm being honest, I think getting pressure on the golf ball, I think that is easier when you've got the arms. I mean, it's hard because a lot of the time when people come in, they come in with these preconceived things that are like demonized. Can't have the club behind me. I'm like, why? Do you know what I mean? In the backswing.
Yeah. That is one of the biggest ones, right?
Yeah.
Where people talk about
It's all you ever
can't get the club heads
In.
behind. So
Yeah.
everything's like
out in front.
out in front.
Yeah,
That.
and the thing is, you look at how many injuries we're getting nowadays, like in players, and you used to get guys, mate, doing no gym work, nothing like that, and they're playing however many events a year with smoking cigars and
Yeah.
drinking every night and whatever else, and they all manage to play every tournament of the year. And it's like, whereas now I think a lot of this tilting, I think it's like really hurting people.
Puts stress on the body.
I think it is, mate. Yeah, and then you, like, how many times do you get people now? My back's gone, like
Yeah.
and it's, I do think technique has a big part to play in that, not as alongside the gym stuff too.
Well, I remember you and Thad when we were out in Florida. You were talking about. Yeah, that's not bad. You were talking about one of the events that you played in, and one of your because we were talking about getting deeper.
Yeah.
One of your thoughts was to just basically swing the arms in.
Yeah.
And get in a super deep position.
Yeah, yeah.
And you went out and like flushed.
Played
it, right?
awesome, yeah. And in reality, if I'm honest, like, was I that deep? No. Do you know what I mean? My body's obviously still participating, but the other thing I found with that element of it was it's a lot easier to also reduce tension when you're thinking more around. I think it's very difficult because to keep the club naturally working out that way, to me, that has to come from the arms being disassociated from the body, and obviously everything in the golf swing has an appropriate travel. So if my arms have almost maximised their move out here, it's very, very difficult then to be soft in my arms, which I quite like tension-free, particularly when you get under pressure.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to feel quite soft. But yeah, and because
Which is the opposite of the,
up and out and
that.
Yeah, I just think from what I see, I've seen a lot of new clients in the last 2 years. I would say from what I've seen, there's more people hit it poorly when the club's too in front of them in the backswing than when it's too inside. When it's inside, generally people tend to have like a couple of misses, tends to be like a little bit of a push,
Yeah.
a smidge heavy. When you tend to get people out in front of them too much, it actually creates almost every single cocktail of mix that you could possibly think of.
Yeah.
And I find that when people are a little bit too inside, it's a lot more playable.
Yeah.
But again,
Because
that's just my experience.
if you look at that guy, Knudsen, and a couple of the older guys, they were generally like over the top if you look at their hand path,
Yeah.
right? Because I guess if you're sort of like maxing out that in and around yourself, in order to get down to the golf ball, you have to then get the club out in front of you and working slightly over the
yeah.
plane
Yeah.
on the way back.
Exactly.
But that's such a better place to be than, rather than here and limitless space to move into,
Yeah.
or not move into,
Yeah.
you've got here, and it's like, right, I've just got to get back on top of the golf ball.
Yeah.
So you're like tighter and connected on the way back, and then you can work it out in front. I'm like a bit of a convert because I used to be,
Yeah, of
what it
course
used to
you
be
did.
like.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
used to be
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
And that was my thoughts exactly. I need to.
I think
Get the
all
club
of us are
outside
resistant to it when
Yeah.
you first hear it, because you're like, oh, it's setting off a lot of alarm bells because we're told, can't do this, you can't do that, and you've only got to look at like how all those guys loaded the club. They're all very much, they're quite long through like that first piece of their backswing. Like you'll notice like Hogan, for example, or there's loads you could kind of bring up on it, but you'll notice how they're all quite kind of long
It's
down
that energy
here,
in the club head stuff,
and then
isn't
it just works, and then
Yeah.
their arms can be quite shallow, quite deep, but then the club head's doing a lot of the work for them. Whereas obviously, again, when you start to go on the outside, you can start to see that the club head's kind of loading a lot earlier,
Yeah.
which I just don't think you can be efficient through the ground if the club's out and in front of you too early and disassociated from your body. I just don't think you can be.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, to go back to like why were they more like that? You go back and look at a lot of old school golf lessons with like when Hogan was having lessons, and he used to say that his coach used to have a bag of old clubs down the back of the range. And they used to literally just come in and they'd just be like throwing clubs down the driving range and stuff. So you imagine you're just literally going with golf clubs down the range all day. Obviously the newer versions of that are like hitting, like your VJ used to hit tyres and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I do think because they had to be more efficient to flush it back then, I just think that's why they were probably it probably wasn't even a conscious thing, realising that their sequences were so good, but they had to be able to hit the ball good. And I think, that's, and I think we all have that like romantic side of like looking back at the shell wonderful world of golf, and like I don't know anybody that's probably watching this that hasn't watched the Hogan versus Snead match.
Yeah.
I think everybody in the world who loves golf will have watched that.
Let's hit a few. Just hit a couple.
I've got no
finish.
clubs left now. We were saying to you like as a joke in America, like get it as flat as you can, and it's just like good luck hitting that left. You see what I mean? You just can't hit it left, and that's what I think. I also think that because of the weight of the clubs and stuff, I do think they had to fight the left more back in the old days. And I think that's why you see changes in what people are doing. But I would always do it if ever I'm towing it, and if ever I'm hitting it left, I would try and swing it more in.
Yeah.
Because then it kind of pushed the face a bit more open, got it back more towards the centre of the face, and meant the ball would start right. Because I always got scared as soon as I see the ball. I think to me, completing golf is being able to hit the ball as hard as you want without it going left.
Yep.
I think that's that. If you're there, you're in like golf in Mecca.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to go
winning.
play golf. Exactly.
Right, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Hope you got something from that. And like I said, if you want us to talk about specific topics, just get them in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you on the next one.
Yep.